New Year. If I haven't seen you, thank you for being here to Redevelopment Commission meeting this evening. Thank you so much for your sacrifice and for your time. And we look forward to input and also from the items, finishing the items that we have on tonight's agenda. If I can ask the Vice Chair if he can call the roll and leader in our guiding principles tonight.
Sure thing. Commissioner Cho?
I'm here.
Commissioner Morgan?
Here.
Commissioner Strickland?
Here.
Commissioner Tripp?
Here.
Commissioner Walker? Excused. Commissioner Wallace? Commissioner Young?
Here.
Chair Lee?
Here.
Co-Chair Perigo is here. And ex officio members, Alderman Bengal,
Here.
Alderman Best, Alderman Harris. You have a quorum, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if you don't mind, if you don't
There's
mind,
Mr. Verbatim.
I would like for this board to acknowledge Beth Walker and her tragedy and see if we might could send some flowers or something that we could do for her during this period of her mourning. So I just think it's really important. I'm just so saddened and shocked to have learned the news.
Okay, for everyone that don't know, our fellow Commissioner member Ben Walker's husband passed suddenly, and so his memorial is on Thursday at 1 at Union Point Church on Trent Road. And I know several of us have worked with him. I worked with him when I was working with the city. And he was very kind, very, very, very kind. Great architect to work with. And given what she said, I guess we can just direct staff to do that, or one of the staff, and I'll talk to you about it afterwards. Yeah, making sure that that is what you want instead of something, but also
Whatever, something we should acknowledge as a board.
Yeah. Also, I think a staff's husband has passed away as well.
Alice.
And so just keep everybody in your thoughts and prayers. Alice, our GIS people. So keep everyone in your thoughts and prayers. Lots going on. A lot of things. Can we get our guiding principles, Vice Chair?
We certainly can. I'll start it off. Past, present, future, equal time. And we'll go this way. Commissioner Strickland?
Respect others' opinions.
Listen to build consensus.
Share accurate information, public perception.
Stay focused, be action oriented.
Yes, y'all two are last. I didn't hear you say believe, Commissioner Wallace.
Believe, he said it. All of the above.
Thank you all so much. Great to see you. At this time, we have public comment, and that time is limited to 4 minutes. Do we have any public that wish to speak tonight? Okay, all right. See, we have none. We will move on to our next agenda item, and that is to approve our minutes from December 8th. You received them in your package. You have opportunity to read them. Any corrections, deletions? If not, if we could get approval for those.
Madam Chair, I move the minutes be approved as written.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nay. Ayes have it. Thank you so much. Agenda item number 4, adopt resolution authorizing the exchange of real property. Staff.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we have finalized we met all our statutory requirements to initiate the trade between Mr. Newkirk and the Commission for some parcels. We went through it all a couple of meetings ago. Everything's been posted in the newspaper per statutes, and tonight we're just executing that agreement. We have The resolution has been changed, and so we're ready to vote on that. If anyone needs any clarification, pull up maps, I can do so to jog your memory. If not, it's good to go.
Mr. Ruggieri, you mentioned the change in the resolution. Commissioner Vice Chair Paraguay pointed out a typographical error in the copy of the resolution that was circulated to the commissioners. That typographical error has been corrected. Nothing as it relates to the substance of the resolution has changed in the material.
Did we end up with general warranty or non-warranty?
The commission will convey a non-warranty deed. The commission will receive a warranty deed per statute.
Since we have so much public, should we maybe put it up on the board? I mean, show a picture of the spots, or are we good? Is everybody good with knowing where it's at and what we're swapping for? Okay.
Madam Chair, make a motion that we adopt a resolution to exchange property.
You need a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay. Okay. Questions, discussion? All in favor of the resolution, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Thank you. Okay. Just checking to see that Mr. Stewart is here.
I just texted him. He had said he was running behind. He figured he was second on the agenda, so I was running behind. I just texted him. So, if you want to. There is a correction under the action required. I don't know if you noticed that. It says action required is that we make a recommendation regarding the parcel located at 506 Darst, and it should be at 1106 Broad. Correct, Mr. Ruggieri?
Correct, ma'am.
So that was incorrect on the agenda, and I just want to note that.
Can we proceed? Okay. If it's by consensus, if we can move to committee updates, if he's on his way, if we can move to committee updates, is that okay? Okay. All right.
Unless someone on the commission objects, I think it's entirely appropriate.
Any objection from the commission if we just move to committee updates? Okay. All right. Jeff, could we get neighborhood? If there's any neighborhood update, and then you go to
Madam Chair, he's arrived.
Oh, okay. Well, he's arrived. Okay. All right. So, agenda item 5, request from Kurtis Stewart to recommend the Board of Alderman initiate the upset bid process for 1106 Broad Street, and we have changed that on the agenda. Asia, if you make note.
Yeah.
Make note to make that change, that we made that change in the minutes. Staff.
Okay.
Okay, well, for our process that we set up, at this point, since we don't have control of the property, we are being asked, we've been asked by Mr. Stewart to donate or surplus this property. The process is the applicants, the requesters come make their presentation to the commission, sharing any information they wish. The commission then makes their recommendation based on that information. The Board of Alderman, whether they support the project, and the Board of Alderman will then initiate the surplus bid process.
Okay. Mr. Stewart, you
Yes.
got anything to add?
Well, I purchased this property here probably a couple months ago. We've been going through some foundation structural situations. We've gotten that taken care of with a local engineer here. Have getting that information over to we've gotten the information over to Matt, so we're good with that. We're on the second level of the house and just finished that. Kind of my purpose in the property would be a mixed uses. I'm not sure it's zoned for a couple different things. My original thought would probably be an office space, and then some residential on the other side there. It's kind of what I'm thinking.
Any questions from the commission? Yes, sir.
So this property that we're discussing is between two structures that are standing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and there is not enough space for another structure to be built between those existing two structures.
That's correct.
Okay, I would also like to take this opportunity to go on record and add just a little bit of short history if I could. Just in the last 3 years, so to speak, one of the reasons why this commission was founded was because the redevelopment area had deemed itself and found itself as being blighted. Since that time, there were 3 eyesores that were in the community, one being commercial, which is located on Broad Street, one being residential at 1215 Main Street, and of course this parcel right there on the corner, which is 1102 Broad Street. Those 3 pieces of property have been purchased by Mr. Stewart, and he has given us buy-in to what our goal is. Number 1, to bring business back into the 5 Points area, take housing that is in the redevelopment area, take it, turn it, and have it to be viable to where it can be rented, which is what he's done at 1215 Main Street, and taken one of the biggest eyesores on the main thoroughfare here at 1102 Broad Street. And as you see where that rust has gotten all over that roof, that is all being replaced and work is being done. And I just wanted to go on record as saying publicly, thank you, Mr. Stewart, for the buy-in and for helping this commission to be able to achieve some of its goals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
Now, just a couple of technical points to illuminate. The parcel that you're asking the commission and, if need be, the Board of Alderman to consider is the vacant parcel between the 2 structures on the screen. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is your intended use for that particular parcel?
So, I don't know. I just wanted to kind of, because of the size of the house, and then to have some different options, whether it's parking, whether it's just other yard space. It's kind of my intent to be able to control that kind of corner is really what I need to do. It's several different things going on there, but I think my initial thought is some additional yard space, potentially some parking for that place. We have 2-car garages there that I think would be sufficient, but I would like the additional space just in case I would need it.
So you have 4 parking spaces on the parcel that you own now?
Correct.
Okay. And your building, do you know, or is there any question about whether 1102 Broad Street encroaches on 1106?
I'm not sure about that. I haven't had it surveyed. Looking at the GIS prior to purchasing it, it looks like it was kind of in that lot, but I'm not sure. I haven't had it surveyed.
Okay. Just to kind of follow up a little bit on the intended use, you said you're still kind of up in there just a little bit of exactly what it's going to be. Couldn't help but notice the name that's associated with the house.
Yeah.
So will it be an investment for that nonprofit, or will it be a functioning location for?
Well, no. If you look at the deed, and I got this question yesterday, and it's interesting you say that. Just a little bit about me and my background. So my background is human services, and I operate in Durham County for the last 15 years. We have an MOU with the local judicial system in the North Carolina Council for Women. We have done domestic violence, sex offender anger management for some time. There was an MOU that came out, there was an RFP that came out for the North Carolina Council of Women probably about a year ago. And Craven County was one of the counties that did not have a domestic violence provider. One of my interests initially was to have an office space there. The question got thrown at me yesterday. I guess I don't know who's doing the fact finding for this redevelopment commission that I was going to put a sex offender house there. I have no interest in that. We don't house any sex offenders at all. We do have a program in Durham County where we service some of them. I think that there's been some failed attempts here by some other individuals. I wouldn't want to follow those footsteps. And it's not going to make us any money. I need a return on my investment. So my initial thought would be an office space. In fact, I'm supposed to get with Matt next week. He mentioned to me that The office that came down with COVID, so he was a little far behind. But even when he comes in there, he'll kind of see how the walls are put up. But again, my initial thought on that right-hand side, which I call A, would be 3 office spaces there. Potentially True Care will have an office there. I also operate the Omega Center, which is about 15,000 square foot. So if we were going to do anything as far as groups were concerned, we would probably do it there. But there's no intention in my game plan to house any sex offenders there at all. So thought about Airbnb, thought about bed and breakfast, thought about, there's obviously when you get above 2 residential units in that type of space, you obviously have some different code and sprinkler system kind of things you have to look at. Don't know if I want to do that yet, but initially probably some Airbnb stuff on the residential side. Maybe, there's 1 apartment downstairs or 1 bedroom. Don't know yet, but I'm leaning more towards, once I meet with Matt next week, I'll know what I can do on that second floor, what it's going to cost me to do it. But again, it would definitely be some residential. I need to get some return on, that's for sure.
All right, and just for the record, nobody intimated to me in any way, shape, or form that that's what you want to do with it, the sex offender side of things. I'm purely just looking at the name and then Googling up the website. So kind of connecting dots on that. And figure we had some diligence to ask the question.
No, I appreciate it, but I definitely got the question asked him yesterday. I want to be clear. Again, my background is in human services, and we do operate a facility there. We did have an opportunity to come to Craven County for particularly the domestic violence proportion, and more so if folks kind of do their homework. Where I'm located at, you can't house sex offenders there anyway.
What is this property currently zoned for?
Can you hear me like that? Currently is single-family detached, single-family attached, duplex, multifamily residence, short-term rental whole family. You need a special permit for homes for handicap, boarding, rooming houses, special permit for elderly housing. It is currently zoned for hotel and motel, bed and breakfast, nursing care home, child care home, high volume traffic, North Carolina DOT standard, low volume, and a vape shop, which I have no interest in. Governmental office building support services, and office clinics for physicians, dentists, bank drive-through window.
Is it Mr. Stewart, is it a C4? C3, okay, all right.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, so it's zoned for quite a bit. Again, that doesn't really, obviously that's good for us, but it's really about, what building code applies to what we're gonna do. And that's kind of what my conversation with Matt is gonna be about.
Okay. Commissioner Young?
Sure.
Looking at the size of the lot, I suspect that lot was part of the original property and was split off at some time.
My understanding there was a house there?
Actually, that building currently sits on 2 lots, which is 1102 and 1104 Broad Street. There was a house in between where that vacant lot is, which was 1106, which was the Hill Homestead, back in our time of growing up, and that house was torn down. And there was just not enough space legally to put another dwelling there.
I just thought maybe that, as small as it is, that had been part of the original parcel and at some point split off from the...
No.
Because it is awfully small.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Okay. All right, any other questions, commissioners for Mr. Stewart?
I just have, so we're talking about 1106, correct? Is
Yes,
that? Yeah, okay. What is the square footage of that?
No idea. It's a very,
okay.
I mean, for me, if we did decide to kind of do some multi-family residence there, I just felt like parking would probably come up. I obviously realize what we have on site there. It's kind of a security measure for us, and then additionally, as I said, worst case scenario, we'll have some yard space. So.
It's 25 by 100.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, the action requires to make a recommendation to the New Board of Alderman. Any further questions?
And Madam Chair, in the spirit of being helpful, the first inquiry, as as has been our process with these types of requests, is for this commission to determine whether the Redevelopment Commission has any use for this particular lot. Given its size, its location, topography, all of those different types of factors. And if you decide that the Redevelopment Commission doesn't have use for the lot, then you move to the second inquiry as to whether Mr. Stewart's forecasted use would be consistent with the goals and objectives of the redevelopment plan.
Clarification.
And I guess kind of based on that second point that you just made, do we have the obligation of some sort to have a more nailed down finite plan of what the use is?
I think at least what has been the experience in this process, often people who are making these types of inquiries are in the beginning phases of development. And what has been the case is if that person can forecast a type of development or a type of use that, one, is going to be constructive, and two, in line with redevelopment type efforts as we codified it in the plan, then you can determine that that's sufficient to make a recommendation to the Board of Alderman.
But nothing can be done to bind into that initial plan once we kind of give our head nod. Our head nod is done.
No. The only way to bind a usage of real property would be for the Board of Alderman to convey, the Board of Alderman and, is this county owned
Craven
also?
County, yes it is.
Both governmental entities to convey the property to the Redevelopment Commission, and the redevelopment could put covenants or conditions on that usage. But at this stage in the procedure, there's nothing to do to bind an individual.
One last little comment, and I just highlight this as another occurrence of the properties that are kind of in play that were initially kind of on the table, that were to be all deeded over, that are kind of held up in that process of not being able to deed. I know we've since narrowed it down and had the properties that are specifically pertinent to what we can develop in, but just kind of wanted to highlight that this is another one kind of going off the books with small value, but still some value.
Or do you want to address that? Do you want to address that as far as where we're at with the properties?
Sure, that's an appropriate segue. There has been some communication with Craven County, and the county is willing to begin conveying lots to the Redevelopment Commission. What they have asked at this stage is they're not willing to convey all of their interests in the redevelopment area. They've asked this commission to select 10 parcels that are most suited for development in a relatively short amount of time, and to make those suggestions to the county about what parcels we want, what our intended use might be, and a reasonable time frame to accomplish those objectives, and then we can continue the conversation about those particular 10 lots being conveyed sooner rather than later.
And then what will happen is we can go back and ask for, there's 40 lots, so we can go back basically 4 times to ask for 10 lots each time. They're concerned, I don't know what the example was, they gave an example of where they relinquished the property to
It was another nonprofit.
another nonprofit organization, and they never did anything, and they had to end up taking it back, and that's what they don't want to do.
Yep.
And I understand that. And in this case, I will say that, again, if it's not suited to build on, which it's obvious that we're looking on it, we can't build anything. The cities, then, we're responsible to mow it, keep it up, whatever. If we have someone even at a half interest to pay for it and take that over, the city's willing to let something like that can't be used for a constructive purpose as far as building, which is one of your core values, or even, offering some service to the public. It's just too small.
Okay. Well, yes, Commissioner.
It seems to me that Mr. Stewart has shown good faith in his effort to start to reconstruct the structure. And that in itself meets some of our core goals. And I think if we have a lot that doesn't seem to be of any use to anybody else, that if we can support that effort, that would be a proper function of this commission.
Does Mr. Stewart need that piece of property immediately to continue his work in getting his
Yes.
No, we only have the permits for like demo and foundation repair. We haven't received any kind of interior use type permits or anything.
Well, to be clear, what was asked by your officer was that we got a general contract in, so he's pulled the permit to do what we need to do.
Again, we have a permit for demo and a permit for foundation repairs, that's what we have.
Okay.
And what I'm getting at is, it seems to me that if we identified that as one of the parcels that we wanted to have conveyed to the Redevelopment Commission, we can then convey it to Mr. Stewart with some conditions that the Development Commission might deem appropriate to apply to it, which we can't do now if we just turn it over to the city. For instance, that the parcel can only be used for parking or green space, which again would be within the confines, especially the green space, of what we're trying to do.
Well, potentially though, Kip, he could add to the house and still have the setbacks. It would, if he wanted to enlarge a part of the house, that would, I'm not saying that he would do, but that would certainly be another case, correct?
Well, I mean, if we deem that to be
Right, I'm
something,
just
but
saying.
we would be in control of the conveyance of the property, which we're not under the current,
Yes, and the
as
city wouldn't
Jamie
be
explained,
either.
the current process.
That's correct, because the city can't do that.
Right.
So when it comes back to us, we can't put conditions on.
Right.
And it also goes to an upset bid process. So, it has to go through that process as well. Because it's our standard policy.
And I guess when we start talking about control over what someone else purchases, I look back at the location, which is now Broad Street Takeout, which was a commercial property, and it is now a thriving restaurant that was vacant for 7 to 10 years maybe, and was just pretty much wasting away. And there was nothing in that particular block that had a restaurant, a grill, a takeout, of anything that was servicing that area. And now it has become more than just a lunch area. It has become a friend of the community. And I guess when you start talking about control, there was no one that had any control over what was going on there except it wasting away. And I see where Mr. Stewart came in and saw a niche and saw a need. And it was for more than just profit, obviously, because I do know of some activities that have taken there. I'm not going to toot his horn for him, but it has proved itself to be a friend of the community, which is more so of what we need. So I would think that instead of us tying his hands, that we would give him a hand and assist him as much as we could. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned about the usage, but the word control kind of gives me some concern.
Well, if you have concern over usage, then you need to deal with that in some way, and the only way you can do that is with how Jamie explained that you have deed restrictions or whatever. That's the only way you can control that if there are any concerns about the issues. It's done all the time, but it's just a matter of whether we want to go through that process or not.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I have a question. What is the concern about the usage? It's zoned for quite a bit. So what is the concern about the usage, if I may ask?
Mr. Stewart, let me finish with the commissioners first.
Sure.
And then I let you
Sure.
get back up there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Okay, can I make a point? One other thing I just noticed, we did the Darst Avenue 2 meetings ago or whatever. Again, no conditions. We were told we didn't have this kind of debate, and that's somebody that's going to build supposedly a home or build a new building on that, and that's in the upset bid process right now. The Board of Alderman, based on your recommendation, approved it, went to the, I mean, for something, this is an iota of what that other parcel was.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about long-term
And
operation of this commission, not focusing on his particular piece of property.
Making policy.
Especially,
That's
the other thing I would really like to see is if we had that, if the county's gonna give us 10 blocks of pieces of property at a time, they're gonna wanna see, before we get any more, they're gonna see that we did something with those 10. And if we could get that in that list, and then we could convey it out to Mr. Stewart. And what I'm not saying is that I'm not willing to sell that piece of property to Mr. Stewart. That
That's
it's also,
it shows a win.
it shows a win,
Yes.
it becomes a taxable piece of property, and you go on from there, and it's activity coming and generated to meet a need for the Redevelopment Commission to go back and get more property from the county that we can use.
Okay. Well, any other thoughts from the commission? Okay. Let me get Mr. Stewart. And what would you say?
Well, listen, I'm a pretty straightforward person, okay? And sometimes that gets me in trouble, and sometimes it doesn't, I've taken a couple of personal attacks from some of the people in this room here, and it kind of bothers me. I think I'm a pretty sophisticated young man. I come from very humble beginnings. I sat in this room last week, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I watched a situation that's similar to mine, with no plan. I'll just say this. I hope you guys do the right thing, and I have a good portfolio of residential homes in another county. I walk into a room there and deal with development services there. I think Robbie made a good point. These people want to work with you. I'm spending my money. I have over $500,000 on that street. I don't want to get into too much, but I'll tell you that I don't like to be targeted. I don't like to be harassed, and I don't like some of the things that's taking place with some of the folks in this room, and I feel like it's problematic. I've done okay for myself, thank God. I do have counsel, and I looked a couple weeks ago when I was here, and I watched the redevelopment abatement officer come up here and do a presentation with another young lady in regards to a property. And I didn't hear any of these questions that you guys are asking. They had no plan. They're not moving. I am, again, over $500,000 on this block. And it's very frustrating. And I'm going to win regardless. Whether you sell it to me or not, I hope you do. I'll keep moving. But I'm just a little frustrated in some of the things I'm hearing in here. The control statement. Again, I go to other municipalities, other cities, not from there. These people want you to come in and spend your money. Here, I get I just want people to be fair, okay? I can't stress that enough. You guys' job is to redevelop, and it seems like it's such a difficult thing sometimes. I don't know who Mr. Ruggieri's boss is, but I can tell you that you guys got to be fair to people. That's all I ask. Just be fair. Don't target folks. Treat people right, because you never know. And I watched a couple weeks ago, and I said to myself, why would the abatement officer be doing a presentation for a citizen? You guys went ahead and did it, but you're questioning me, and I'm over $500,000 in this. I've done what I said I'm going to do. I opened a restaurant, I paid for it, it's functioning. I brought something in the flood zone, and I didn't have half as many problems if I'm having with this person, with this house. I had this gentleman, again, I'm straightforward. Use it against me if you want to or not. I had this gentleman tell me that I ran a paper ad about this. I'm seeing this gentleman just text this guy to ask him a question. I don't like stuff like that, guys.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is be fair to people and don't do that. That's not good business. That's not good business. That's all I'm saying.
We hear you, Mr. Stewart, and thank you so much for your comment, and let us move on. Thank you. And we hear you, and we understand what you're saying. We understand. We
So
appreciate it.
my point would be, I would appreciate for you guys to vote on this tonight, as you've done in the past. I don't, some of the words you guys have said, it's kind of troublesome, I'll just be honest with you. I just don't, I'm be honest with you, I don't like it, it bothers me.
Okay, all right. Thank you, and thank you for coming. You finally, we're glad you finally got this on the agenda. Commission, does somebody want to make a vote one way or the other, see if it goes up or down? Everybody understands the background you heard from Mr. Stewart. Everybody has had the opportunity to speak, and so
I'd like to make a motion with the proper verbiage to be able to sell the property to Mr. Kurtis Stewart.
So, Commissioner Morgan, I think your motion is you move to recommend to the Board of Alderman to initiate.
Yes, to recommend to the Board of Alderman to initiate the upset bid for the process for 1106 Broad Street.
okay, thank you, Commissioner Morgan.
Pardon me.
I second.
Okay. Questions, any further discussion? All in favor, could we get a hand vote, please? Okay. It's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stewart. We will, does Jeff need to send a letter, note, or anything?
He will work to put it on the next agenda.
Okay, all right,
Jamie can work with that too.
all right. And if you would you send the commission a copy of the agenda? Just CC us.
Board of Alderman?
Yes,
Sure.
yes. And that way, everyone can remember for this person. Okay. All right,
Can I make one suggestion before, like, just, it's related, but, I mean, I know we've had, those are valid points, right? So the fairness and how we approach, this process. And so should there be, like, as we move forward, and this will happen again, people will want to, pursue the upset bid process. I mean, is there any way to standardize that? Like, so we're prepared. I don't know how that would work.
well, we have, remember the housing working group had been working on, they had put forth some, I think it was about 5 or 6 bullets point as to how we were gonna,
That's for the purchase of property.
that was just for the purchase of
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
all right.
I
Well,
guess what I'm
it
saying
needs to be something that's taxable to the, understand.
So if it's in the redevelopment area, maybe it needs to be conveyed to us at some point in order to be sold again. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Certainly, if other citizen boards have policies and procedures which lay out how they deal with certain circumstances within their purview. And if you all, as a commission, wanted to think about some of those reoccurring circumstances that you face and want to articulate a policy or procedure, then that may be appropriate.
So housing working group, I think, because I thought that was in group, but we look like that was one. Okay. All right, committee update. So neighborhood,
Well, neighborhood, we're up to 82 cars. And climbing. Don't have the abatement numbers. We just had some stuff come back from family deaths and COVID, so I couldn't get all those numbers, but still working. If you drive through the neighborhood, you'll see a lot more properties are cleaner than they have been, and you see people out. Really is amazing. But still working on the cars, and doing really good with that. So
okay,
yeah.
all right, housing.
Well, our tour got canceled by the snow that we had last weekend, our working group tour. And hopefully we can reschedule that in the immediate future so we can all come up to snuff with reality of what's going on. But other than that, we
Yeah, so the Jones house has been removed.
Yeah.
We're going through the asbestos abatement and removal on the house on First Street. Those will be removed. You can see the house on Gaston, it's got some beams under it at least. It takes us forever to get anybody to do any work out there, but it's going at slower than a snail's pace. And that would be it at this point in time. So our next, we'll be removing the structures from the First Street parcel. Talking to Leon, he's having problems getting an architect engaged in his design, the issues they're having in Philly, but hopefully we'll have something on next meeting.
And Madam Chair, it might be appropriate for the housing sub-working group to get together and collaborate to make a recommendation as to the 10 lots. And maybe that's something that could be considered and adopted by the group at the next meeting, if that's enough time.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, I saw Vice Chair writing it. Okay, all right. You can, let us know if we want to meet and collaborate with you. Okay. As far as the tour, again, is concerned, our next meeting would be February the 24th, and so that's the Saturday before that is the 19th. So if we can look into the 19th, see if that would work, if we don't have anything major going on. See if we could get the Recreation and Parks busing, if we could do it at that time.
That's the date of the Black History Parade.
Yeah.
Okay, don't want to do it then. 12? There's probably something going on every single Saturday in February, probably. More likely.
I'm sorry, Rick?
Did you say you could do the 12?
I wouldn't be able to attend on the 12th.
On the 12th.
I mean, is it okay to, I mean, is this urgent, or can we wait until, it warms up a little bit, and, what is the thought?
Well, trying to get the strategic plan, trying to get that done, and did not want to do it without the tour.
Right.
I mean, if you continue to put it off, policy, procedures, things like that, just take a back burner, and that should not be.
Okay.
So that's the reason. Need to get some things and look at some things and take care of it from there. So that would put us at the March meeting, which is March the 23rd, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's the 24th. So I'll be March 19th for the tour.
That's fine, I'm at 10, I have a wedding.
March 19th.
Yeah, so far, I'm good. Depends on me, but.
Well, on the majority of the commission there, though.
What was the February date, the 24th? What was that? Why did we leave that date again?
District 19, that's the Black History
Right.
Parade.
And then the following week was in February?
The commission meets on the 24th. So we
Okay.
wanted to do it before we had the meeting,
Okay, I
so
see.
we could discuss.
I understand, okay.
So, okay, so let's try then for March 19th. Maybe a little warmer too. Hopefully.
no
Can't
snow.
never tell about Eastern North Carolina.
No more daylight. too.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, hey, that's what you live here. Okay, all right, Health and Wellness Working Group.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, so with that March 19th meeting, we need a time and a place.
Oh, that's right, it's a meeting. Okay. All right, what time was we going in January? 2 o'clock?
It was 2.
At 2? 2 o'clock on March the 19th, and the first place we are going is Bloomfield Street. So we meet
We'll
at
start
one.
here.
We're gonna start the meeting here and then go to Bloomfield, okay? All right? We need a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any questions, discussion? All right, so that's March the 19th at 2 o'clock. We will meet here in Development Services. And we'll take the brush.
You already voted down.
Well, you guys
So
go.
2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday. Why we not going in the
It's a
morning like we
Saturday.
did?
What were you, oh, you don't wanna break into your day?
I just want to get it in so we can have some day left. You know, I mean, it just hit me like 2 o'clock, maybe, because the last time we went was at,
2?
no, it wasn't at 2 o'clock, it was in the
No, it
morning.
was in 10.
It was at 10. We got it in, we
I
were
thought
done
y'all
by
told
1.
me it was 2 o'clock.
No.
No,
The
they
meeting was going
because we even took till like 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
All right, we can amend that, hey, Commissioner Wallace, it's no problem. We can amend it. Can we amend your motion to?
Yes, you may.
All right, to 10
How
o'clock.
long is this gonna last? How long what's the duration again? I'm just curious.
Oh, you
No,
weren't
I'm
with us
just-
the last time?
It was 10 to 12, I
10 to
thought.
12, okay, so I'm just, it's just good to understand, you know. And then are we coming back here to do the same thing? No, just
This
this
will
one.
be during
Okay.
the meeting.
Okay.
I know it was something I missed tonight, but I said 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock?
Yeah, I asked what time it was, they said 2 o'clock, so I, hey,
Well,
okay.
that was so we got that deal with.
Here's what matters, here's what matters.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Fugor, did you get all of that? Yeah. Okay.
So just to interpret for the record, what I think happened was Mr. Paraguay, was he the one that made the motion?
Yes.
Mr. Paraguay has reconsidered his motion, and he would like to amend his motion. Is that correct, Ms. Paraguay?
Verbatim, that's right.
Okay, so Mr. Paraguay wants to amend his motion to have a special call meeting on March 19th to begin at 10 a.m. versus 2. And the second was Mr. Morgan, who
And I
amends
do-
his second, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Madam Chair, you want to call for a vote?
Just, can I ask one quick question? It was all built on the concept of meeting March 24th, I think you said? Did I miss our calendar getting changed? Because I thought we were doing the
March
second
23rd.
We always do the
Wednesday.
second
We
Wednesday.
were doing the second Wednesday, so now it seems like we jumped back to the 4th. So I think our
I
official
did jump,
calendar
oh,
was
you know what, I
approved
jumped to the
second.
4th because we jumped to the 4th here. All right, well, let's leave, let's, hey, all right, so what's our meeting?
March the 9th in March. It's always the second Tuesday, unless you go to
Yeah.
April.
Yeah. Okay, so, that's the 5th. That'll be March 5th.
What, is that a Saturday? I don't have a calendar.
Yeah, again, it's
Yeah, it's a
Saturday.
Saturday, okay.
Or so.
That's a Saturday.
Yeah, it's a Saturday. So it'll be March 5th for March 9th,
That was me.
okay? All right, all right.
Can you
Thank you
amend,
for.
can you amend one more time?
That extra little hiccup making me say.
Yeah. Hey,
Not that anyone cares, but I won't be around.
We cared, you did.
I know.
okay, so we are
Say
March
Shannon, thank you.
5th.
So is Mr. Paraguay, is that your
The
motion?
amended motion.
Your motion, Mr. Paraguay, is to, because you've reconsidered
Again.
again, March the 5th, special call meeting, March the 5th at 10 a.m. to begin at Development Services.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Mr. Morgan,
Yes,
is that your amended second?
yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have all the questions answered? We have the right
Yes.
date. But we're here tonight on the 4th.
So the final one ended up being,
Me and,
it's still, okay, it's still y'all, okay.
10 a.m.
we started that way, we ended
Ain't
that
no 2
way.
a.m.
10,
I said 10 a.m.
Oh,
okay. All right.
No.
That's what, Robbie, I thought you jumped down on me.
hold on, you guys said 10 on the 5th.
Yes, yes.
That's the motion.
10 on the 5th, starting at 2 a.m., I mean 10 a.m. at, 10 a.m. at Development Services.
Yes, that's what we talking about. Okay? All right? We clear? March 5th, 10 o'clock.
Good job, brother.
Development Services. That's where we started. Okay, all right, let's go. Okay, health and wellness.
Madam Chair, there's a motion and a second.
We need a,
We did-
we need a vote.
We already
We
voted?
need a
No,
vote.
we didn't.
We didn't vote for
Not
it.
on the amended.
Amendment.
She's on it.
You better vote
That's
before
why she
I
gets paid to do
reconsider.
it less.
Do it, I'll offer substitute motion.
Okay, okay.
Better on those.
Motion second. Any further questions, discussions? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for working through all of that. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Mosley. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Okay, now, Commissioner Chuck, could we have health and wellness report, please?
Yes, ma'am, of course. There's multiple things going on, but I'm going to focus on one today. So I know we've had conversations about, the Health and Wellness Center and what that will look like potentially according, to the redevelopment plan. I know it was mentioned as an FQHC in the CNI, and that's what we carry over to our plan. So we met on January 13th at the Health Department with Dr. Fisher, who's the medical director, and Chair Lee and John and myself. And so we sat down and had a conversation based on conversations that he's had with the executive director of the Health Department, Scott Harrelson, in December, which he had relayed to John and I outside of the meeting. So we sat down to kind of clarify what his thoughts were as we move forward. Dr. Fisher was talking about the health department exists, right? That would be our partner, as mentioned in the plan. It's a public health entity, and what we could possibly have with the Health and Wellness Center is a satellite. So for the Craven County Health Department, and we would possibly get some funding for programming that way. The plan would be to have transportation and shuttle from the health department to the Health and Wellness Center when it's located here in the redevelopment area. And these are all things that have to kind of be, of course, discussed. But these are just why, recreate the wheel when we have a large health department with multiple programs there. So what are some of the prospective programs and services that would be in our community health and wellness center? Well, the focus would want to be on screenings, prevention, chronic disease management, nutrition, culinary medicine classes, chronic disease education, preventative health screenings, behavioral health therapists, mentoring, coordination of resources and transportation, which is something that we've talked about it would be centralized, right? So people have a place when they come in, to kind of address or ask questions about where they could be sent. Community health providers of color, that's something that came up in the conversation. So, Dr. Fisher's recommendations, and I took notes and things that he had said. So his vision is to synergize all the existing partnerships that we have, things that we've created, either with the local healthcare, hospital, agencies, Mercy Clinic, the health department, and then how can the health department provide a better service to us with this satellite type of vision. He was very, very passionate about community vision, being part of what we put there, having strong community involvement in programs and planning. He felt that there's not community input, the site will be underutilized, and there should be plans for visioning sessions, and we've had these conversations. What would be the goal? Of course, to empower the population in self-care through education and prevention. So that's, learning and, working on, again, chronic disease management with the focus, and John can speak more to that. It should be directed, he felt, this is Dr. Fisher, by a nonprofit board of local community members and stakeholders. Of course, eventually we could have clinical care there. We hadn't really crossed that bridge yet. And again, centralized resources, example, social services, case management, community health nurses, etc., and mentoring. So at the end of this whole meeting, it was a great meeting, we talked a lot, and he posed this question. So I highlighted it in my report. He posed the question of, can the Health and Wellness Center potentially be placed or included in the design of the Stanley White Recreation Center? So that was really towards the end of our conversation. And so, we left thinking that, it wasn't part of our plan initially, but of course, we should pursue it. So Chairman Lee had sent out an email. She had included Alderman Bengal, and she can speak to that as well, once I finish. I'm almost finished. But I just want to let you know that, so we're all having these conversations. John and I were quite excited about the potential of that. I want to go back to almost a year ago. Mr. Ruggieri and myself actually had this conversation about Stanley White, correct?
That's right.
And, the fate of Stanley White was really unknown. There was a lot of unknowns at that point. So we kind of shifted to what was available. And, when we got the McCotter House in August, that seemed like a very reasonable place. So this happened to come up, there's a lot going on with Stanley White, I'm not going to get into that, but the floor plan does mention having a health screening room and an office and kitchens and, there's a media lab that's included in that. So, I've been looking at that, and that's something, again, that we'd have to, to study and, of course, have multiple conversations about. But, after that meeting, Dr. Fisher had sent me an article, and I copied the link. I'm hoping that we could send it to you guys. But it talks about how parks and recreation as community health and wellness hubs. So this is not an unknown concept. I mean, this is being done around the country. And, just what we talked about in our meeting, community hubs serve as a gateway to the community and are essential. And I'm just going to do a couple of the bullet points from within the article, but they showcase the range of services available in the community, thereby resulting in easy-to-find community resources. Again, resources would be centralized. Provide year-round or pop-up services in accessible location, or alternatively, serve as a referral point for services. Again, you're having a recreation center, people are coming and going, it's going to be vibrant, and we can look at programming, either be consistent, or we can have various different programs as well. It can serve as a gathering place for community members and visitors, and which has resulted in improved community connectedness and inclusion. Again, this is evidence-based. And within this plan, there is a gathering space. It promotes results-driven, multi-sector partnerships among community businesses and organizations. So again, we're building on the partnerships that we've already created and looking to create new ones, and also to improve the efficiency, affordability, and sustainability of community services from the pooling of community resources, which is a significant benefit to under-resourced and underserved communities. So I just think it's something that we should consider in the future, and I'm going to let Alderman Bengel speak to some of the information that she might have.
So after I received that email, I set up a meeting with Foster and talked to him about his thoughts about including these concepts. So what Maria has, and we can send, is the concept plan for Stanley White. So nothing's in stone. We've hired the architect. They have been hired. They've started work. And Foster is saying this is the time, the perfect timing for us to engage and get in there so that we can talk about, because in the concept plan, and the concept came from the consultants looking at CNI plus, they had some community engagement. There was a Stanley White Recreation, were you on that committee? Yes. Stanley White Recreation Committee, again, who had input to determine these were the needs of the community in this center. So as Maria said, there is a health and wellness screening room in there, a kitchen, media room, some other things that could be used and programmed as such. And of course, there would be staff there then to design exercise programs. It'll be a 2-story building. The second floor will have a walking track. So again, it provides walkability for people in all kinds of weather, can be inside. There'll be connectivity to Henderson Park, which again, walking paths, other recreational opportunities, and that's what you want, is to have, health and wellness for people who are suffering diabetes, heart, high blood pressure, other things, to learn how to manage those, in a safe space. So this would work. Also, I've started to have some discussions with RCS, who would be willing to look at partnering with their kitchen, even on a basis, starting now, their commercial kitchen, to start doing some educational classes for cooking and working with the community there to have healthy cooking options, because their kitchens pretty much sit empty from after lunch on. So they could potentially use that. So there's a lot of opportunity for partnership. Maria is forming those partnerships with the health department, with CCHC, I believe, the hospital. So that could be that public-private partnership that we could, work with. So we're at the point now that if you're good with this, Maria and Foster can get together, or this group, your health and wellness group, and start working with architects for some ideas to see how we can work all this and get meet the needs of what you're looking for in a health and wellness portion of the overall recreation complex.
And I mentioned to Alderman Bagel that, and to John ad nauseum, we can get our assessments done. I mean, this would be a perfect platform, to, again, use it. We worked backwards. And I just want to note, I know I sound always defensive, but, it was very difficult to engage people during a pandemic, and as a matter of fact, we're working on another program of Faithful Families with the North Carolina Extension, and we really can't do anything right now because of COVID. Right? I mean, organizations have restrictions, and we have to be very mindful of that. So I really think that the engagement of the community in this is essential, along with, with meeting with the city and with us, as a group. In the article, they talk about a hub in Dallas County, Texas. And, some of the things we've talked about, they address multiple chronic conditions that adversely affect health. They have nutrition classes. It was really, fallow for years until they kind of adopted this concept. Now they have 5,500 community residents have become members and participated. But the one thing that stood out to me, and they have after-school programs, they have Bible studies, so we can begin to look at mental health, spiritual health, physical health. I mean, that's what we've been talking about this entire time, this comprehensive approach. And what they had, which I love, is they offer an internship program through which 178 students exploring public health careers have been trained in nutrition and community outreach. And I mean, that's the other thing that I know that Dr. Fisher and John and I have talked about, accomplishing, is to encourage, younger generation, make this intergenerational, where we can really have access to young families and inspire them, to maybe get into health education careers. I mean, I think that that's underrepresented here, and we need that cultural competency. So that's another piece, long-term, but something to think about. Do you have anything to say?
Thank you so much, Commissioner Joe.
I'm done.
I just want to sort of, the way I have been looking at this is that that whatever we do has got to be community-based and community-directed, and it's got to be sustainable. What makes all of these things work for me is that in the beginning, the health department's going to be the leader. They already have programs going. And the community center is going to be Stanley White. And that's community-based and community-directed. And so whatever programs are developed will fit into that concept at Stanley White much better than any other facility that we could think about. And we are in the ground floor at Stanley White. So
Now's the time.
and I think all parks and recreation people are leaning in this direction. They're coming less focused on basketball and football and spreading it out to the full community. So it's exciting to me to think about that we have this chance.
Believe it or not, the number one asset they want to put in here, and I'm still trying to deal with it, is gaming. That is the number one recreational sport right now.
Yeah.
And gaming, but they'll have a gaming room and an area where they can game,
I mean, recreational, that doesn't work with that.
I don't know, that just blows me away.
Robbie, what are your thoughts about that putting this health and wellness clinic type of thing in there?
You want to know what my thoughts are about putting the health and wellness in the Stanley White?
Incorporating it within the Stanley White.
I got to throw it out to his. Sure, I got to throw it out to his.
Can we just hold those?
Yeah.
Yes, can we just hold, no, can we just hold that for just a minute, so we can make a clarification?
Absolutely.
As I said at the meeting with Dr. Fisher, in our plan, it says the Bloomfield house. And I said, there's nothing wrong with having a plan A and a plan B. Recreation centers that have set in beautiful brown communities have always been the exact same thing. It's a community center. Not no fancy hub, not no fancy this, not no fancy that. They've just been there. Everything happened there, just like everything happened at Stanley White. We got a grant for Jamie and all them to come in. We had Bible study there. We had exercise there. So it's no different. I mean, it's no different. But I'm just saying, as I told them, that was not in our purview it was a conversation that had to be had with city manager and the administration. And that's why I sent out the email, because I wanted everybody to understand that that was had, that was said, and that people would make sure, so that it wouldn't, that our commission wouldn't know too that we needed to have that conversation first before, it's a great idea, like I said, but in the plan, it says Bloomfield Street, and the commission needed to have a conversation before you just say that, even though those things gonna be there still, to make it the way it's supposed to be, to make it transparent to everybody, that we have that conversation before, because health and wellness is a part of the commission. It's not a commission by itself. Just like the housing group is not a commission by itself. Neighborhood is not a commission by itself, even though it has a commissioner one.
Can I just make a...
One and a,
Oh, sorry.
one and a staff. Just want to make sure that, we understand that we're all in this together. And so that's even, when I saw her report, and actually it needs to be sent to everybody, we'll get Jeff to send it to everybody. But I just want to make sure that we understand that, is that we had to have a conversation about it. We couldn't just say, okay, automatically we're changing to that, even though they having those things over there. And it's a great idea, because like I said, it was there before, and now it's going to be more, technology sound. I can't even say that tonight. But anyway, so now, Vice Chair. All right.
Mr. Morgan, I would like to have your thoughts and comments about that.
And then after Commissioner Wallace.
Yeah.
I think, excuse me, I think that the chairman saw me about the downshift and get ready to get right into it. So I do appreciate you sharing that before I did give my, I have actually two schools of thought when it comes to having the health and wellness to be a part of that particular area. I grew up in the community center that was Stanley White. And I also know that was the safe haven. And there was enough going on there. I know that we're talking about a different time, different technology, with a larger building, with a lot more space, a lot more coming and going, a lot more interactiveness, and you will draw in a lot of youth, and you will draw in a lot of the elderly, because there was a lot going on at Stanley White than just basketball playing, than just little kids running around. There was a ceramics program there for the elderly that would surpass any other in the state, and I can guarantee that. But I also know that in that hub down on Bloomfield Street, which is in the heart of the redevelopment area, which also just happens to be Duffy Field and Dodge City, I'll call it like it is, that is where it's going to be most needed. And it's going to be most needed there because it's within walking distance. A lot of places up on Stanley White, 3rd Avenue, Henderson Park, that's not considered walking distance. That's not where you see walking traffic. Where you see walking traffic is from Cedar Street on up to K Street. Quite a bit. Those are walking trails. You have one-way streets and you don't have sidewalks, but you will see more walking traffic in that area than you will see in any other part of Duffy Field, even with the sidewalks. So that's why I lean more so towards that area that is most inhabited by residentials, and it's walking traffic, and you will see the elderly walking, and it's a safe haven. We have a store now that has stood the test of time, Mr. Terry Holloway, and he's made it very safe, he's made it very warm, and he is a friend of the community, and it would be right there in that area, and I know he would work very, very, very closely with having it closer to where he is. You asked, so I spoke.
Yeah, and the other thing too is like, our redevelopment area over on Trent Court, whenever there's a resource fair or health and wellness, the people from over there come over here. I mean, if it's on the other side, they go over there. So, you know, it would benefit, both would benefit the entire area.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what you want. Commissioner Wallace?
Is the aforementioned in West New Bern?
Is the what?
Is the aforementioned in West New Bern, everything that was just shared that was proposed to be put in Stanley White, is it in West New Bern?
When I worked there for years, we've had, we had exercise programs.
Of course, with this new building, it won't be the same because
No.
you'll have an indoor walking
No,
track.
we
You
didn't
don't have
have
that at West New Bern. You will have more amenities in this new one just because the space is twice as much. When it was originally built, when West New Bern and Stanley White were built, they were identical in size.
Yeah, they got an upstairs walking track in East Carolina. That the two new systems they have up there, pretty much like what you're saying. But there's the health portion of services is not located on that site. This is what the community was afraid of when we moved it from outside, from inside of where it was at, to moving it on Broad Street. We began this conversation with the McConnell House so we can demystify going up in 5 points, so there wouldn't be fear going up in 5 points. And now we're having a conversation to bring it back out. That's troubling to me. You demystify Trent Court when you add those breweries up and down there. You got everybody walking up and down there. Now you demystify. And that's what this commission is supposed to be about. So there's no fear when you go over Broad Street and go towards the railroad tracks. I came up in a time when we stayed on the side. We were just as guilty on my side. Help me if I'm wrong here. Don't go over on that side, pretty much. And my friends from the other side of the tracks was told, on your way downtown from uptown, don't make a left. Demystify that perception by keeping it as we began and we taught. The more rooms you take up in Stanley White, the more you take from the McConnell House. The more resources we don't have going in there where they're needed. This plan started greatly. We were getting resources in the hood. In the hood. And I was all for it because it demystified where I grew up. So I'm not late. Again, it's already been done. You've done it over there at Trent Court when you aligned all that up, all the way from Colony Tower, all the way down to Tryon Palace. Up and down, demystify, reintegrated. I'm going to just go ahead and call it what it is. We reintegrated that side of town. And we need to do the same thing over there for where they're at. Because if you don't go back there, then it continues to keep the label that's on it right now until we can get some resources back up in there. I just wanted to say that for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner Wallace. Okay.
And that's why this is brought here, to hear the
Oh,
voices.
yes, ma'am.
You know, that's what we want to
For
do.
y'all bringing it.
We want to hear the voices.
That photo.
Yep, Commissioner Stewart.
I'm listening.
Okay. All right.
I had something to say.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I
You
just
should
want
have
to,
said that before we said our piece. And if you did, I'm sorry, Chief.
Yeah,
I'm so used to, I love it. I love it. I don't want you to hold back. I mean, that's, we're here to be transparent and to
Debate
have
is
these
good.
sometimes difficult discussions. I just want to say, and I want John to hop in, when I met with Mr. Harrelson, the day before that plan was presented, he said, I don't think we're going to have any FQHC funding. Okay, that's what's in the plan. Is it in the McConnell House in the plan itself? Is it named?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't believe it is, but and I know we talked about it, and I understand that. And so, I called Jeff, and we just went on with, it was the next night, and we had the plan approved. What he explained to me is that you have the health department, you have a health department in Havelock. So, funding is, I don't know what the funding is going to look like at this point. This is all I'm saying, and I'm not saying we can't do it. Of course, I would love to do that. This is something that Dr. Fisher had just asked. Again, with his concept was to basically use the resources that would be existing at this point. That was basically why he asked the question. So, kind of, again, with the idea of not getting the potential funding we need, and we'd have to go someplace else. That's all got to be discussed. So that's why I appreciate your feedback. You know, we can look at it in a different way.
And if the fund, Madam Chairman, if they try to make that point that you just say, that in order to get funding, it has to be at the brand new building.
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying, what we were told, was that getting FQHC funding.
Can you
having an
explain what FQHC is?
It's a fairly qualified health center. That is what the health department is.
Okay.
And so we put that in the CNI. It was in the transformation plan, I believe, because I read it there, the one from 2010. And we carried over that language thinking, yeah, that makes perfect sense because we want to have a state-of-the-art facility. You know, and then I was told that, and I know that Mr. What is his name again? I just said it before.
Harrelson.
Yeah, he had come and he said, yeah, I remember that, right? We had him. But before the plan was approved, I did have this conversation, I was told that probably would not be possible, okay? So, and that is, I'm being very honest. So I just want the commission to understand that we're going to have to come up with, you know, some type of, you know, maybe a different plan as to what it will be, how we would approach it. So,
But
I'm sure
the FHQ is just a buzzword, and and now they've changed it to something else, as they always do in government. It doesn't necessarily have to be that funding. At the time, that was the buzzword.
Right.
But we all know, again, that you cannot have but one located within. There's one in Goshen, at Goshen Medical Center, but it is the parent company for Goshen is in Mount Olive, so they are the actual ones that have it, and stuff. So I mean, there's other funding than that. I'm just saying that, you know, I mentioned this at our meeting. Let's not get stuck on that word, because that doesn't make any difference when we need funding.
They talk about the health department, so it's specifically the partnership with health, I mean, you know, with the health department. Okay, so that's something that is written in the plan, and, you know, we carry it over, and I highly suggest, and we've talked about this, that goal 5 of our, you know, is the fluid plan, that we change language, because we, you know, that's there and it's written there, and I don't think that is pertinent at this point. So,
Yeah.
But there is variations of state-of-the-art, right? I mean, we can get into technical terms as far as the verbiage and not even have to look for another funder. I mean, I can, Goshen ain't state-of-the-art, the current health department ain't state-of-the-art. And we already have to do renovations to the McConnell House when we started off. It's almost like you're just trying to get out of it to get to, no.
Yeah.
That it needs to go in the McConnell House like we decided and when we began this thing. We even refused some people that wanted the McConnell House because we knew we had this plan. Remember that? Remember that, President? But it was more like a book report, but still. We still said no because we earmarked it for this right here. And then we get to the 5-yard line now and change the plan.
Yeah. Right. And the health department actually has a community center in Harold. That's what it's called. And that's how they could, you know, move their, you know, portion of their funding there, which operates really well.
Right.
They do to have it. Yes, Commissioner John, and then we're gonna leave it where it is.
Okay.
I fully understand what you're saying, and it's like a light bulb going off to me to hear that. I spent 40 years in worrying and trying to find ways to fund health projects. I look at the Makata House and I see no money to restore. The first step in your plan is to restore the Makata House. I want to know how this commission is going to pull that off. And I looked at it from an outside. I'm an outsider. I looked at it from the point of view of an outsider. I looked at that piece of crap over there, this Makata, whatever you want to call it, and it's going to take a considerable amount of money to restore. Meanwhile, the people in our target area had the same health problems they had 20 years ago. So we need to think about how we can quickly get the sustainable services to the community. I don't want it held up while we are looking for a few pennies to restore the McConnell House. Now, I fully understand what you're saying. And if that's the way we go, then we need to talk about where the money's coming from to do the first step, which is to restore that house.
We're gonna continue this next week. Are we gonna continue this next week? 'Cause I know we're stopping now. We're
Yeah.
gonna continue this next week.
Let me ask you,
But I really appreciate what you said. I thank you for it.
the projected,
The projected date of the opening of the Stanley White?
yes, not the opening, but.
Well, yeah, I
you
knew what
I'm
you were
saying.
getting at.
What is it, 2.5 years?
At least 2.
At least 2, okay, all right,
We think it's
okay.
a little bit.
So, commissioners,
We need to be
commissioners,
part of the conversation.
okay. So we need to, continue the conversation. We don't need a vote or anything, we don't have to.
No, you don't have to have a vote to put it on the next agenda if you'd like. If the commission's pleasure is to place specifically the conversation about a health or wellness center in the redevelopment area on the next agenda, you can do that.
All right. Would that suffice and give us enough time, commissioners?
Yeah, I don't have to be here.
That,
I would like,
Commissioner Watt?
I would like it to be more directed. If we're going in Commissioner Wallace's direction, I'd like maybe the staff or someone to tell us how we can remodel that place. And
I can say it right now.
How about that?
okay, well, put that on the agenda, because that'll be the foundation.
All right, well, we will work, me and our staff will work out the agenda, and we will get it to you in time enough. And the city manager, whoever we need to work with, and may reach out to some of you to make sure that the agenda is comprehensive and that we will be able to devote our first part of the meeting to that. Is that suffice? Everybody? You clear? All right. We have one more thing, and that is the possible donation 1412 to 14414 Washington.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair, for
You're
mentioning
welcome.
that. Mr. Ruggieri, do you still have your map?
Yeah, I hope so. I remember exactly where they're at, so.
So, members of the board, not to
Right here.
worry your patience too long, the city was contacted by a Mr. James Day in the recent past, in the last several days. Mr. Day owns the properties located at 1414 and 1412 Washington Street. You can see those parcels roughly where Mr. Ruggieri's cursor is idling. Those properties back up to the Duffield Canal. Mr. Day is having some tax problems, and instead of going through the tax foreclosure process, he is inclined to donate those 2 parcels to the city or the Redevelopment Commission. Since these parcels are located within the redevelopment area, it's appropriate for you all to consider, to investigate whether you would like to accept the donation of these 2 parcels. I will indicate that the delinquent taxes on these 2 parcels, the county is owed about $500. And if you were inclined to move forward with accepting this gift, because with the tax foreclosure, the county and city would own the parcel, and both of those entities are entitled to their taxes. What I can envision moving forward, if this commission is inclined to want to continue this discussion, is the Redevelopment Commission would need to reimburse the county for the taxes that they're due, which is approximately $500. And the conversation at this point would be that the city would waive their tax indebtedness, and the Redevelopment Commission would own those 2 lots for anything. Yes, sir, Mr. Tripp.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I took you there, I think it was last week. Is there trailers or anything that are on that we
Yes,
would have to clean up?
Yes.
Okay.
Are they inhabited right now or no? They're just empty?
Oh, they're empty.
I can't tell.
They're empty.
They may be
I don't-
Been there a long
supposed to
time.
be empty outside.
Nobody's inside of them.
Okay.
Commissioner Sweeney?
Do you happen to know the city portion of that tax on the city?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. I do know on, I think it's 412, there was a mobile home on that was involved in the minimum housing process several years ago. And there is, the city has a lien against that property for the demolition costs associated with that mobile home. So the city's tax burden is significant compared to the counties. But I can't tell you right off the top of my head the dollars and cents.
I think it's best we put this on the next agenda.
Yes.
There's a lot of data behind this, that it works out well in our redevelopment plan as far as the greenway that we've contemplated in the plan itself. We've been working on parts of this project for the past 8 months or so.
Yep.
This could really be a good thing. So before we make any decisions, I would request put this as another item of discussion on the next agenda where we can present what we've been working on.
Okay.
And if you'd like to direct staff and the city attorney's office to button up some of these details for you all to consider at the next meeting, we can certainly do that.
Yes. Vice Chair. Silent. Okay.
We're not
So-
going to build on it.
All right, just put it on the agenda, and whatever information you can give us ahead of time would really be helpful. And that's what you
Absolutely, yes,
can ask questions, and Vice Chair can go and investigate too at the same time. Okay, all right, just a few more things before we leave. I told you at the last meeting I was working on a annual report, so I will be calling on you to get me your information as to, you know, what your group has done or some things that you want to see. And if you have any pictures, if you can send me 2 or 3, and then that way I can choose. Now, this is Swiss Bear's annual report. It's not going to be that elegant, but I can guarantee you it's going to be somewhere near there. And the pictures make a difference. So if you would, and I'm also going to give Miss DeAsia here to get pictures as well. But for housing and working, any thing that you can remember, if you can go ahead and get it to me, and I need it before the next meeting, please, because I need to finish up. So we want to get a list of our accomplishments in the last 3 years. 3 years only. Yeah, 3 years, going on 4. And we are a little bit behind, but that's with the pandemic. That's understandable. So if y'all would do that for me, some things that you would like to see, and there's some things that you think that we've accomplished, or that we've accomplished. If you would send them to me, they can just be raw, and then we'll put them in there. But want to make sure we get as much as we can get in there, because we will be presenting it to the Board of Alderman. So can you handle the commission? No problem. Everybody's looking at me. Nobody's saying yes or no.
Yeah, I guess we need a deadline as to when you need the information.
No, I need it before the next meeting. Our next meeting is,
In a couple of weeks.
2 weeks.
yeah,
We gotta get
oh
the
yeah,
agenda out a week
because we are
early.
late. February 4th.
All right.
It'll be a week from
Yep, February 4th.
That's a,
Okay. Okay.
that's a Friday.
All of our houses.
All right. Okay.
I'll clean them
February
and
4th.
everything.
Okay. All right. All right. Is there
They really are.
Okay, all right. That's it. Again, thank y'all so much. If there's nothing else to hold our attention, can we get a motion to adjourn?
Can I just say one thing? Could I just ask? So when next meeting on the agenda, what for health and wellness and the the proposed center, what are we going to be discussing exactly? So
We're gonna work on that, and we will get it to you.
okay, and so could I ask that, because I know we've spoken to Margaret Shields before in the past about grants, and there are grants that are available.
Yeah, we're in the process.
Well, but we need to know about that. So
That's
because
exactly
Don and I don't know anything about that. So that would be something that
There's a lot of possibilities you can get into, one public housing area and then another tax credit. So there's a lot of possibilities. So anything else for the good of the order?
Right.
All right. Did we get a motion to adjourn? You did.
Yes. I gotta go home.
All right. Thank y'all so much.